So obviously, when we think about the New York cut, we're thinking about some of the narrative about where the price is going to go to after the New York cut takes place, aren't we? That's the basic idea of any of these storylines, is where is the price going to go to following the cut? In other words, the things that drive the price into the cut itself, it could be a pinning narrative because there's not very much happening, or it could be specifically a driver in the background. So when we think about it as a trade, what I do is I start working out where most of the unwind is going to come in from the cut itself. So this is what we had this morning. You might agree. You definitely should agree because it's right. And the trade is, of course, that if the market is above here, what position are the dealers in? So there's these areas here. This is where the position is, right? So assuming the market maker has the other side of all of those options, what position will the market maker be in if the price is above the strike price, above the actual strike? The market maker will be in what position if they were hedging that position? The market maker will be long, for example, on the euro dollar, correct? In this case here, the market maker will be long euro dollars. So if the market maker is long euro dollars, what's going to happen at the cut? The market maker has no need for those long euro dollar positions and will therefore sell them. So what was the Australian dollar doing? Well, the Australian dollar pinned, didn't it? The Australian dollar pinned, but the same's still true. So a big chunk of the Australian dollar pinned into that price area. So that took some of the pressure off, but you can see obviously the market maker will be long again, right? So the market maker's hedge here would be about $1 billion Australian dollars long, up to $1.5 billion Australian dollars long. So therefore the market maker is probably going to short sell, or not short sell, but the market maker is going to short to close out their long position. In other words, cover their long position. If we look at the dollar yen, we can see that we had 1.3 billion below and 600 million above. So if I'm looking at dollar yen, I'm thinking short sell on dollar yen in here, but it's marginal, isn't it? It's a storyline that's not massively strong. And obviously one of the clear-cut storylines, because there was no debating about it, was obviously this Canadian dollar, sell-side dollar CAD with the option expiry below us. Of course, that would give us an idea that we're short to dollar CAD. So if we're looking at that as a storyline, of course, if we're short to dollar CAD, we are short to dollars and we're long the Canadian dollar. Obviously, the dollar yen is a little bit more muddied because we've got 600 to one side and 300 to the other with a billion quite a distance away. So this is a more awkward storyline to figure out exactly what we're doing here. Of course, the short euro dollar is more difficult because obviously we're short euros and we're long the US dollar, which kind of offsets the dollar CAD storyline, doesn't it? So we can obviously understand that that offsets the dollar in terms of that as a particular storyline. So obviously we then have to have a look at that and say, well, how do we make some money on any of these trades? How do we, well, the idea, of course, is to try and tie them in together. The idea, of course, is to tie them in together. So what does the trade become? So what trade could you do based on this? Well, obviously the dollar's out of the question, right? Because obviously we've got some dollar buying, selling euro dollars, sell side euro, buy side dollars. We've got some dollar buying coming in. We've got some dollar selling coming in. We've obviously got the sell side dollar against the Canadian. We've got sell side the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So we've got some dollar mixed buying and selling, which will offset each other. So in other words, we don't think that the market's going to be predominantly working on the dollar in terms of rebalancing, right? Everybody agree with that? The dollar itself is getting a lot of buyers and a lot of sellers across different spreads. So one of the things we try and do is we try and identify the clear-cut examples here. So the euro is a clear-cut sell, correct? And the Canadian dollar is a clear-cut buy, correct? They're both for about the same amount of money, correct? So on the basis that they're both for the same amount of money, if I sell the euro dollar and I sell the dollar Canadian, what trade am I doing? I'm selling the euro CAD, right? I'm going to sell the euro CAD at 3 o'clock. So obviously, if I sell the euro CAD at 3 o'clock, was there a good price area, first of all? Was there a good structural price area? This is euro CAD at 3 o'clock today. Was there a good structural price area? Sure. We've obviously got a very, very nice wholesale price below us at 48 evens. So obviously at 48 evens, we've got a very nice price below us, which means that we're going to grab some liquidity from a sweep. We've obviously got the buyers on a weak-handed trade. Yeah. So the buyers are weak-handed. So that's another benefit for us for the sell trade coming in. So there's a lot of sellers, $300 million worth of sell-side business going to hit the low edges here, which is good news. And obviously the idea here is that the market maker has to do that trade, because obviously if they don't do that trade on the way up, they're going to be struggling to do that trade if it breaks the bottom edge, aren't they? Because the market's going to slip against themselves. So there's a lot of reasons why this is a really, really nice trade at 48.05s. You can see that the bottom edge price was 48.75s, 30 pips of sell side profit. Not the biggest trade you've ever seen in your life. Drawdown of 0, however, and a very, very nice, cheeky, very, very nice, cheeky little measured move to the bottom edge. Now, you might be laughing at it, saying, well, you're not exactly going to be able to retire on those kind of numbers, are you? Well, of course you're not, but the idea here is that it's money, basically almost money for nothing, isn't it? It's almost money for nothing, because you know there's a lot of sellers going to come in at this point. You know that they have to sell at this point because the market is already sell side. So obviously the one thing they don't want to do is sell on a downtick. And obviously there's a weak buyer already in position here. We've also got the liquidity at 48 evens. There's an awful lot to say that this is going to be a decent little trade. There's a lot to say that this is going to be a decent little bit of sell side business. And that little 30 pip profit right there was pretty good into a measure. No surprises about where the target price was, of course. That's not a surprise at all. You can see that that's into that measure move right there. And obviously you're bagging and tagging your monies. Absolutely superb little bit of business as a Forex trader. And remember, the trade is going to start at 3 o'clock. That's the advantage, I suppose, about these RGL-based trade ideas, isn't it? The big advantage about RGL-based trade ideas is that we know where they're going to happen. We know when they're going to happen. So if we know where and when, that's the whole concept of the matrix, isn't it? The idea that the where and when is now outlined for us. It's going to be around about 3 o'clock. It's going to be on an uptick, and it'll be a very, very nice opportunity, because they're probably not going to chase it if it's a downtick, because they're going to chase themselves out of business. So they're going to wait. They may well defend the price if it drops, if it was dropping at that stage. But the fact is, it's on an uptick. It's back above 48. It brings in the volumes. As you know, a 48 break will bring back in some buy-side volumes. And we know that there's going to be $300 million worth of selling coming in very, very quickly there. And we get a 30 pip profit. A little bit of time and a little bit of effort just to work into that as a story. And it makes a wee bit of sense, doesn't it? A wee bit of sense. Yeah? All straightforward, guys. All good? Superb. So just doing this little